Hello everyone, this is Andrew from Crown Academy of English. Today's lesson is a lesson about how come. So watch the video and then do the exercise at the end. So how come is a question, and it is very common in informal spoken English. The meaning, well, we say how come to ask why something has happened. And we can say how come to ask why a particular situation exists. And how come expresses surprise by a situation. So when we say how come, then we are often very surprised by something. So let me give you an example. So we have a conversation here. Sarah asks, "Do you want to go to the cinema?" And Jane replies, "No." And Sarah says, "How come?" And Jane replies, "I'm tired." So when Sarah says, "How come?" she's asking why. Okay, so how come? It simply means why in this context. And we'll look at some other uses in this video. Okay? So let's look at some more simple examples. And let's look at the form. So if we want to simply ask why, then we can simply say, how come? So we've already seen this, where we just say the words, how come, to replace why. So Jane says, "I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry." And Mark asks, "How come?" So basically, Mark is simply asking, why? Another example, David asks, "Do you want to watch the football?" Mark replies, "No." And David asks, "How come?" So he's simply asking, why? And the third example, the simple example, Jane says, "I don't like Claire." And Sarah replies, "Really? How come?" So we can see the surprise here. Sarah is like, "Really?" So this is expressing surprise. And how come? It also expresses surprise. So how come is a way of saying why in informal spoken English. Okay? Now, let's look at the form of full questions. So here we will see how come as part of a long question. So first of all, let's compare the form of why questions and how come questions. And you will see there is an important difference between the form of a why question and the form of a how come question. So first of all, the form of a why question. We have why, and then the sentence is in the question form. And then we have a question mark at the end. And the question form, well, here we often inverse, or we often have, yes, inversion of the subject and the verb. And the exact form of the question, it depends on the verb tense that we are using. But when we use how come as a question, the sentence is in the affirmative form. Okay, so this is the big difference. With why, we have the sentence in the question form, but how come, we have the sentence in the affirmative form. But it is still a question. Okay, it is a question. And so we have the question mark at the end of the sentence if we were writing it. But of course, how come is usually only for spoken English. So let me give you a simple example. So here is the why question. Why are you giving me money? So we have why followed by the sentence in the question form. Are you giving me money? So this is the question form of the present continuous with the verb give. Why are you giving me money? Now, if we want to ask the same question using how come, then we say, how come you are giving me money? How come you are giving me money? So we have how come followed by the sentence in the affirmative form. So this is the affirmative form of the present continuous of the verb give. You are giving me money. But it is a question. This is also a question. So this here you can see the big difference between a why question and a how come question. How come you are giving me money? Another example. Why did you go to London? So here we have a question in the past simple form. Why followed by the sentence in the question form. Did you go to London? So this is the past simple question form of the verb go. Did you go to London? But with how come, we have the sentence in the affirmative form. So now we have the past simple form of go in the affirmative form. In the affirmative form. You went to London. How come you went to London? So the meaning of both of these sentences, the meaning is the same. And here the meaning is the same. It is two different ways of asking the same question. And how come this is slightly more informal and it is more common in spoken English. Okay? Now, important. We do not conjugate how come. So, I mean, we do not say how came. We do not say how coming. No, it is always how come when we have it as a question. So this is wrong. We do not say how came you went to London. No, we say how come you went to London. This is wrong because we do not conjugate come. Okay, so that's wrong. So this is the big difference in the form. So let's look at a few more examples and then I will give you an exercise. So this is just the reminder. This is the form of both of them. We have already seen this. So let's continue with the examples. Why have you sold your house? So this is the why question. And here we have the question form of the present perfect and the verb is sell. So why have you sold your house? Question. And as a how come question, we say, how come you have sold your house? So now we have how come followed by the sentence in the affirmative form. So now we have the affirmative form of the present perfect of the verb sell. You have sold. Sold is of course the past participle of the verb sell because it is an irregular verb. Okay, so if you do not know the present perfect tense, then there is a link to a video about the present perfect at the end of this video. It's a very important verb tense. Another example. Why are you here? Why are you here? So this is the question form of the verb be in the present simple. Are you here? Why are you here? And as a how come question, we have how come followed by the affirmative form. You are here. So you are here, this is the affirmative form of the verb be in the present simple. How come you are here? And finally, why did you take my keys? Why did you take my keys? So we have the why question and we have the sentence in the question form. Did you take my keys? So this is the past simple form, past simple question form of the verb take. Why did you take my keys? Past simple. And with how come, we say, how come you took my keys? You took. So here we have the sentence in the affirmative form. So this is the affirmative form of the past simple of the verb take, because the past simple form of take is took, because this is an irregular verb. Okay? How come you took my keys? Why did you take my keys? So again, this is the same meaning and the same meaning. The only difference is that how come is slightly more informal and is normally only used in spoken English. Okay? So are you ready for an exercise? So the exercise is, I want you to transform the following why questions into how come questions. So I'm going to give you a why question and I want you to write it as a how come question with the correct form. So question 1, here is the why question. Why was she at the meeting? And I want you to write this as a how come question with the correct form. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds, and if you need longer then I will give you the answer. So if you need longer than 5 seconds, pause the video and I'll give you the answer in 5 seconds. Okay, so the answer is, how come she was at the meeting? How come she was at the meeting? Question 2. So here is the why question and I want you to transform it into a how come question. And again, I will give you 5 seconds. So the answer is, how come you went to New York? How come you went to New York? Question 3. Why didn't they get a taxi? And I'm going to give you 5 seconds. So the answer is, how come they didn't get a taxi? How come they didn't get a taxi? And the final question is, why do you never clean your hands? Why do you never clean your hands? So I want you to write it as a how come question. And again, I will give you 5 seconds. So the answer is, how come you never clean your hands? How come you never clean your hands? Okay, so if you don't understand the correct answers, then I recommend that you watch the video again and take some notes perhaps. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Please write a comment below the video and share the video with other students.